Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, this is going to be my 2023 reading stats. So I'm not sitting in front of my bookshelf just so that it's easier for me to have my laptop on my lap, because I am literally just going to go through all of the things that I track, and I will pop up probably here like the graphs, that's the word, and like all that information as I'm reading them, so you can kind of follow along with me. And so we're just going to talk about my stats and all that. So first, let's talk about my reading goal. My reading goal for 2023 was 175 books, which was a lot. In 2022, I think I read 217, maybe, let me check. Oh no, it was 240 I read in 2022. I read 217 books in 2021. Got that confused. So I was like, 240 books in 2022? Oh yeah, I can probably get like 175 easy in 2023. Nope, I read 123 books, which still is amazing. I'm still proud of that because I had 3 huge major life changes in 2023. In May, I got a job, a part-time job, meaning I'm working anywhere from 20 to 28 hours a week. I moved, so I am living in my own place and not my parents, and I got in a relationship. So those are 3 huge things that are like changed in my life that impacted my reading. So it does make sense that I read less in 2023 than I did in 2022 when those 3 things did not happen. So let's just go into the totals section. In total, I read 45,553 pages. And again, this is all popped up here. Hours listened is 233.5 hours. That is, I always round the audiobooks to the nearest 15-minute mark, so that might be a tiny bit off, but that's just easiest to track for the spreadsheet. I acquired 77 books, and then obviously the books read, 123, and I did 26 rereads. Could be better, could be worse. I am a fan of rereading, and I reread a couple books in the Throne of Glass series. I reread Heartstopper. I reread Red, White, and Royal Blue. I started my reread of the Devil's Night series. There's a few other books that I reread, but those are the ones that I'm thinking of that I did reread. Average days to finish a book is 8. Could be better, could be worse. Average pages per day is 124.8, so 125. And my average book length is 370 pages, so pretty good. Books owned versus books read. So at the end of 2023, I owned 271 books. The amount read was 202. The amount unread was 69. And so that means I have read 75.45% of the books that I own, or 75% rounding up, which is about what I want it to be. I don't want it to be like, oh, I've read everything I own, but I don't want it to be I've read nothing that I own. So I feel like that's a good percentage. Now let's talk about the amount of books that I read per month. In January, I read 11. In February, I read 16. In March, I read 15. In April, I read 7. In May, which my highest reading month, is 19. June, I read 12. July, I read 10. August, I read 10. September, I read 4. October, I read 4. November, I read 4. And December, 11. So September, October, November are tied for my lowest amount of books per month. And then also there is the graph to kind of show you what it looks like. Now for the format. I listened to 5 audiobooks, meaning I listened to the book solely on audiobook. Ebook, I read 73, which is my biggest chunk of the pie. Mixed, I read 13. Mixed basically means I read it either audiobook and physical book, audiobook and ebook, or ebook and physical book. And then I read 32 books solely physical. So there's also the pie chart. For the audience is I read 59 adult books, which is the biggest chunk of the pie. I read 0 children's. I never read any of that, but I refuse to remove it just in case I do. I read 2 middle grade, 33 new adult, and 29 YA. And so again, you can kind of see the percentages as well. For own voices, I read 16 books that were owned voices, which ends up being 13%, and non-owned voices is 87. Keep in mind there might be some books that are owned voices that I just didn't realize, because I only track the owned voices if it is clear as day an owned voices book. So if that makes any sense at all. Next is LGBTQ. I read 64 books that were LGBTQ+, which is 52%, and non-LGBTQ+ is 59 books, or 48%. Keep in mind, I don't necessarily just track it as, oh, it is a sapphic book or an Achillean book. It's like, I also include it if it's like one book that just popped into my brain that I'm thinking of is Pucking Wild by Emily Rath. The main female character identifies as bisexual, but it is a straight passing relationship that she gets into. Does that still mean the book is LGBTQ+? Absolutely. I'm not diminishing that. So a lot of the cases are of where it's like, well, it's queer in some ways, therefore it counts. Diverse, I read 46 books, or 37.4%, and non-diverse is 77. Basically, I include that of if it's like one of the main characters is not white, or if the author themselves is not white, if that makes any sense. That's how I track that. Again, you could track that type of thing differently, but that's just how I choose to track it. So books read from, so where I read the book from. So from the author, meaning the author either provided me a physical or digital copy, is 8. Book box, 0. I didn't touch any single book that I got from book boxes in the past. A gift, 1, meaning somebody gifted me the book and I read one of them. I need to be better at that. Kindle Unlimited is 50, which is the largest chunk of the pie at 43.5%. From the library, I read 13. From NetGalley, I read 1. Other is 5, which other is like if I read something on Webtoons. Also, ignore this line across me. It's from the blinds. I don't know how to fix it. So just ignore that, even though I know you're not. But other basically means like, oh, if I read something, for example, of how I read Lore Olympus on Webtoons, but I count it as books, that is other, because it's not any of the other options type thing. Owned is 41, and Scribd is 4. Type of publication, meaning how the book is published. I read 40 books that are traditional, 19 that are indie, and 64, which is self-published. I mainly read self-published books. Self-published is sitting at 52%, and that's just because I love supporting self-published authors. Obviously, that doesn't mean I'm not gonna read traditionally published books. As you can tell, I read quite a bit, but my self-published part of the pie is the largest, and I want to kind of keep it that way. So yeah. And series stats, so basically what type of series they are, but companion novels are 4, part of a series 105, and standalones 14. I mainly read series. And you will kind of see more about my series stuff. I'm going to be doing 2 videos about my series that I started and finished in 2023 and the ones that I have ongoing. So you'll kind of see that stuff a little bit more in that. Now on to star ratings. So I had 41 5 stars, 14 4.5 stars, 36 4 stars, 17 3.5 stars, 12 3 stars, and then 3 DNFs. So I did not read any books that were under 3 stars besides the 3 DNFs, which I like. Obviously 5 stars has the most amount, and that's just because I read a lot of books that I liked this year. especially in the beginning half. Like, I think all of my favorites came from the beginning half of the year. And my average rating is a 4.2, so pretty good. For the genres read is 7 contemporary, 26 dark romance, 8 erotic, 24 fantasies, 7 fantasy romances, 7 graphic novels, 1 nonfiction, 5 paranormal, 33 romance, and 5 sci-fi. As you can tell, romance and dark romance are the most. I think together they are almost 50% of the pie, like 47.9% is between romance and dark romance. That is what I like to read. I'm happy with that. Now on to author stats. So author identity, I read 101 books by cis females, 6 books by cis males, 12 books by people who identify as non-binary, and 4 books of where it was multiple authors, meaning it maybe was a man and a woman, meaning I just put multiple because it was an easier way to track. I definitely like that I read books by mostly women, and so I'm hoping to keep it that way. Author race, I read 4 books by Black authors, 6 books by Asian authors, 2 books by Pacific Islander authors, 100 books by white authors, and then 11 books by unknown, meaning they don't publicly, like, it's, I don't want to just assume, therefore I put unknown type situation. I definitely need to read a bit more diversely in, like, author race. So that is one thing that I'm going to be trying to work on in 2024. But I also don't just want to read a book because it's by, like, an indigenous author or a Black author. I want to read books that I want to read, but I want to veer a bit more into reading books by POC, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm not wanting to change my reading, but I'm just wanting to expand it, if that makes any sense at all. Author status, I read 3 books that were debut, 101 books that I've read from the author before, and 19 that are new to me. Obviously, the read before makes sense that it's the highest, because obviously if I'm reading, let's say, a 5-book series and I've never read from that author before, the first book is going to be new to me, but then the other 4 are going to be read before because I read from that author before by reading the first book in the series. And I also read by 58 different authors. The authors that have the most books read by me is Harley Rowe with 5, Tracy Wolff with 6, Ruby Vincent with 8, Emily Rath with 6, Alice Oseman with 5. And yeah, so those are like my top few authors, I guess, of this year. But that is all of the stats that I'm going to be talking about. I debated going through monthly stats, but I'm like, that's just too many numbers and too much for me to edit. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how many books you read in 2023 in the comments below. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did. It really helps my channel grow. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!